Crank up the volume and get ready for real-world bird hunting by listening to the Wingmen podcast by Eastmans. Now your host, Todd Helms.
This episode of the Wingmen podcast is brought to you by Leupold Optics. You know, I've been running Leupold Optics for a long time on the big game side of things, and I love the performance and the quality of that brand. But when Leupold brought performance eyewear into the mix a couple of years ago, I thought I'd seen it all, but I was wrong. That performance eyewear from Leupold keeps my eyes protected. It helps me with my target acquisition with a crisp, clear sight picture. And guys, I got to be honest with you, I'm stoked to be partnered with a company like Leupold. So for all your optics needs, give Leupold a look. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Wingmen podcast. My guest today is Ryan Aune from Wyoming Wings and Waters. And Ryan is a unique dude. He's got a phenomenal upland bird hunting operation right here in northwestern Wyoming based out of Cody. He's a Cody native. And we're going to break down what Ryan does, what he offers. So you guys looking for an adventure, a wing shooting adventure in northwestern Wyoming, Ryan's got you covered, and he's going to break down how you can get a hold of him and what he offers. And, man, I am excited to have you. Thanks, Ryan, for being on and driving out here from Cody. And I appreciate your time, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. It's always nice chatting with you. So.
Yeah, we tried to hook this up last year,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, I didn't get to meet you until it was like August, and you were finishing up your fly fishing season and diving into bird hunting. And
that's right. We met right off the river.
Right,
yeah.
right.
It's like, oh yeah, I tried to reach you on Instagram, and my Instagram is you talked about how to get a hold of me. That's so hard because I'm just filled with spam because I had a video go viral with 87 million views.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And so from that, I gained all these followers, but a lot of them aren't actually like fishing and hunting followers. It was just odd.
They're not the right audience.
Yeah. Kind of a lot of out of the country type people, just weird names that don't even make sense. And so then they flood me with all these messages of like, you should do this and you should buy that, or just, hi, nice to meet you. And I'm like, so I just started ignoring it. It's hard to keep up with. I probably get 50 messages a day on that.
Yeah. So, no, I get it. It's social media is a blessing and a curse for sure.
So I'm glad we kept bumping into each other though, so we can get each other's numbers. And
small world. And I actually took a picture of the door of your pickup, so I had your number.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
But no, this is great. You know, you kind of do it all right now. We were just chatting about fly fishing because that's a shared passion of ours. And it's a little slow right now in our neck of the woods just because peak runoff. But you're training bird dogs and getting ready for September. It'll be here before we know it.
Oh, yeah, exactly. This is a great month to kind of do a little bit of fishing, but get the young dogs, especially on some birds. I mean, and then just keep the old dogs tuned up and in shape. You got to, depending on the weather, always got to go out early or whatever.
Right.
Don't want to kill the dogs. But.
Yeah, and you're running bird dogs, so it's a little bit trickier for you. You know, me with a lab, I just take him down, throw him in the water, and throw him.
Exactly.
And he's happy as a clam.
That's what you're doing.
That's
when
what I was
doing.
Up
on the,
Yep. He gets a lot of time in the mountains. I was talking with my buddy Josh Lancaster last week, who runs Red Flats Retrievers between Cody and Powell, and he's doing work in mornings and evenings, you know, because he's doing a lot of land-based stuff, but. Yeah, that's the beauty of a lab is you just go throw them in a lake out here this time of year.
It's great. Sometimes I take my dogs out to the lake, but we just don't do that much hunting around water.
Right.
My operation does a little bit of pheasant hunting, but we don't have that many leases for it. And
so you're upland bird focused. Run us through what you do, what you offer, and kind of give us the gist of that so people listening to this. I'm constantly getting requests for more upland bird content. And to be quite frank, a podcast or some social media posts are fairly easy to do, but filming upland bird hunts is incredibly challenging. Even with pointing dogs, it's challenging.
Yep.
Way harder than filming waterfowl hunts or turkey hunts.
Extremely, yep. So I tried to get into the filming side of things back before the business even went off. In 2020 is when I started the business, and I was out there with GoPro on my hat trying to film the dogs and then the bird and shooting. And
Hard.
it's amazing how much video I went through just to get a cool 10-second clip.
Yeah.
And then I found out with guiding that it's actually a lot easier because you can stand back and film the clients going in on a point and then film the birds. And I'm not that great at filming, but I did learn that just with a little cell phone, it makes it a lot easier. So my Instagram has a bunch of videos of dogs on point. And so I'm like, wow, this is all I need to do the whole time. It's just like stand behind someone hunting and not actually hunt and film it. But
yeah, it's a tough thing to capture just because it's such a dynamic experience. You know, you don't know exactly where that bird's going to get up. Even with pointing dogs, you know, a bird could. It's just hard, and you're not in a set location, and so we just don't do a ton of it. Not that I don't enjoy it. I mean, I cut my teeth on upland bird hunting back in Michigan when I'm growing up, and that was what we had, and that we did a ton of it, and I love doing it out here too. But I mean, you're kind of at a whole other level with what you do and what you offer.
Yeah, so it's just unique because it's all wild bird hunting, and just the diversity that Wyoming offers, the diversity in the landscape allows for a giant diversity in our bird species. I mean, we hunt a lot of chuckers, huns. Those are plentiful amounts of birds. They have kind of like quail. They have large clutches and can have numerous clutches some years and good years. And you know, rather than like a grouse species has a small clutch and that sort of thing. And so that's what we really focus on, is getting a lot of action. But with the chuckers and huns, you'll get a lot of action, but they can be wild. They can be wild. They live in wild country.
Yes.
And so you're putting boots on the ground, walking. I mean, some people, I track my dogs. They're going, you know, 4 times, 5 times the amount people are going. And then one time, a guy tracked himself for 15 miles in a day, and that's up and down the hills.
Yeah, it's not a flat walk.
Yeah, so and what's crazy is pheasants hunts that we do too, is people think that you're just walking like a field, like in South Dakota, just walking a flat field. I'm like, no, some of our creek bottoms where pheasants are is like you're going through willows and cattails and Russian owls and ducking and going up a hill. And it's your legs start burning after a while, even with our pheasant hunting.
It's not an easy. I would say upland bird hunting in Wyoming is definitely not easy, but it's worth it. Yeah, for sure.
That's what I offer pretty much, is just the wild Western type experience where you're gonna put in the miles, you're gonna put in the work, but just what you'll see, it just gives you. It's amazing experience. It's rewarding is at the end. So you're tired at the end, but it's rewarding. And that's the feedback I get a lot of times from guys that come. They might be slightly out of shape, but they're like, I'm just going to do it. You know, I can rest when I get home. I sit in the office when I get home. And so they bust through it for a few days, or some people do 2 or 3. That's what I suggest, is to get the good experience. Like 3 days would be great. Right. And so then by the 3rd day, they're beat. But and they're like, how do you do this all season long? And I'm like, I just got to stay in shape. Yeah. I'm rowing a boat during the summer. That helps me stay in shape. I go to the gym, and I'm always out, and then I work the dogs and all that. So I just try to stay in shape because, but I will admit, you know, we do start September, the big season really kicks off September 15th, right? Because that's when chuckers and huns open, right? And then sage grouse is full, like booked. In fact, in 2026, I'm fully booked
already in 26.
Yeah. So it's just really
there's got to be a huge demand for sage grouse, just because opportunities are becoming more and more limited to hunt them. Yep. We did a big film a couple years ago. It started out as let's go do a sage grouse hunt and talk about sage grouse. Mm-hmm. Well, that turned into a 3-year long project and an hour and 20-minute long film because we ended up diving deep into the sage grouse story, and it was like an onion, man. We started peeling back layers, and such a fascinating bird and such a fascinating story. And the actual hunt was a very small part of the video. It was, I mean, I interviewed so many big players in the sage grouse stakeholders, I guess you would call it.
Yeah.
Where everybody's working really hard to keep that bird off the ESA, and you know, we keep cutting back season dates, and now there's a sage grouse stamp in Wyoming, but it's not that we can't hunt them, and it's, you know, we still have lots of birds. We're blessed here in Wyoming that we still have lots of birds, especially in the Bighorn Basin. I feel like our population's kind of pretty strong.
Yep.
But it's just a stamp you buy along with your license, and you, like, I'm sure you walk your clients through all that.
Yep, exactly. Walk them through like what they need to do after they, you know, book a trip with me. Typically, like how I said, I'm booked all the way into through 2026 right now. You know, they get information, whether it be through email or however they want it, or sometimes they just prefer call and we talk about what they'll need. And so, yeah, they go through the Game and Fish website and get their license and make sure they follow all the regs. Like, so I allow my hunters to use automatics as long as they're safe, and typically more with the ones I know, because some places don't allow it just because the break action is just more safe. But with our experience and our birds, you just don't know. You know, the dogs are great. They'll point the birds, but you just don't know when they're going to get up.
Yeah.
Or when, you know, dogs are on point over here, and then suddenly off to the right, a single gets up or something. And if you're not ready to shoot, then you're probably going to miss that opportunity.
Right.
And you're just limited with wild birds. You're limited on your opportunities. We might see hundreds of birds in a day, but that means your shooting opportunities might only be 5 times. Yeah.
Yeah. So. It's the country that we live in my experience, that makes it challenging and poses safety risks for sure. It's one thing if I'm out bopping around with Hondo looking for coveys, and you know I'm carrying, you know, an old Weatherby over and under, Weatherby Orion over and under. I'm by myself, right? But when you got a group of guys or 2 or 3 guys and dogs and yourself, that terrain is pretty extreme in a lot of cases. And a lot of guys probably aren't used to navigating it. So slipping and falling is a real concern. And if you have a gun that you can't break open for you, like an over and under or side by side, a break action shotgun, a semi-auto, the concern for safety would definitely escalate. I never thought of that, actually.
Yeah, it does. It increases. There's so much to our area that gives us risks. I mean, we have dangers in bears in certain areas we're hunting, and dangers in rattlesnakes, and then your dogs running, you know, over a hill, over a rise, and people with guns, and it's I get nervous out there sometimes.
Yeah, I bet.
But you know, knock on wood that that nothing's happened too serious. Yeah. You know, sometimes one guy fell in a rabbit hole and kind of tweaked his ankle and he was done. But it wasn't like he wasn't hospitalized or anything.
It's adventure bird hunting.
It really is adventure.
And you bill it as that on your website. This is Western adventure bird hunting for wild birds. You're not gonna be shooting pen raised chuckers.
Yep.
And this is the real deal.
It's the real deal, and it's on my website. It's wywwingsandwaters.com, and so it's blasted all over. This is not a tame experience. This is the true, real, wild, extreme adventure.
I love it.
That you got to come out here for that. You come out for the experience, and I think I have it. I don't know exactly how I have it worded on the website, but something like, you don't come out here to fill your vest full of birds. You come out here for the experience.
Yes.
And people love that, you know, because, or even if they don't read that, they'll call and be like, so what's the limits and how many birds will we see? How many birds will I shoot and all this? And I was like, oh, well, let me stop you right there. It's not really what it's about. Here are the limits. You know, it's 5 for chuckers, 5 for hunts, for the daily limit, and then possession of 15. And then for sage grouse, it's 2, and then for the daily in possession of 4. So if you go a third day, you got to we got to watch what people have already shot. And so,
or eat them.
Yeah, there you go.
Bring them home at night and eat them.
Yep. So that's another experience that people love that I offer is a meal in the field of the birds that they shot.
Heck yeah.
And they're like,
there's not many people doing that.
This is cool. I've taken out a grill before, camp stove, and set up a picnic table and all that and chairs during the day. And we, get off our feet for a little bit, rest up. And I just get to cooking. I'm like, all right, let's cook up the birds you got. And they just love it, even if it's just something simple, even though
it doesn't take much with especially chukars, huns, and pheasants. It doesn't take much. They're pretty good eating birds.
Yeah, exactly. And so you don't have to be an amazing cook. You just slap some butter in the pan, and I don't have to
and eat them.
I don't have to bring a whole, because you're limited in our country of like what you can. I can't take a full trailer or anything.
Yeah.
It's pretty. That's another thing that makes it the real deal. Is it's pretty rough roads. So you're going to be bouncing around in the truck, tearing up the truck. And so that's what I suggest. It's always my truck. People want to follow. I'm like, no, you're going to tear up your truck.
Yeah, this is not South Dakota, going out
really
in a short bus and big pheasant drives. This is much more raw, much more real. Back to the cooking birds in the field, man. I love that idea. I think hunger is the best sauce.
Yeah.
And there's nothing will make you hungrier than going and climbing around looking for birds all day long. And you kill a couple of them, and it's like, all right, let's cook them up and eat them. And even sage grouse.
Yep.
Sage grouse get a bad rap when it comes to eating. They're horrible and they're terrible. And it's like, when we were on the hunt we did for the film, we shot a couple of bombers, man, the first night.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just giant birds.
They're the size of a small turkey.
Oh, and they're beautiful birds.
Oh,
and the first bird got up between us, and it was one of those deals where we both kind of shot, boom, and went down, and he was a little tore up when we got him back. So it was kind of like not a taxidermy bird, but we did get one that was pretty good looking bird, and I thought, man, I should keep this bird and mount it. And it was kind of like, well, we want to cook him and eat him, so. But we cooked them like steaks, man. We filleted them out and cut the breast in half so it was thinner, and then we just seasoned them up with steak seasoning, rubbed them with olive oil, seasoned them up with steak seasoning, and cooked them hot and fast till they were like medium rare.
That's the way to do it.
And sliced it thin.
Yeah.
Dude, they were incredible. I thought, I have been eating sage grouse wrong my whole life, and it goes back into, since then I've started to do the same thing with Canada geese. Changes everything, and it has to do with that dark meat. The more you cook it, the tougher it gets and the stronger it gets, right? It's no different with a brisket. You either cook it super long till it falls apart, or it's hot and fast and you eat it, nice medium rare. Oh man, and all of us were just mowing those sage grouse. We didn't bring a single bird home. We ate them all.
That's great.
And
That's
I think we killed.
Yeah.
We had our by the end of day 2 we had another limit. We had a limit on day 3. We had a limit. We limited out pretty quick. It was one of those windy days, and those birds were kind of off the backside.
Okay,
and they were holding really tight, and it was pretty easy shooting. And you got into them, and
if you get those sage grouse holding tight, because they'll live in these big, flat, vast, basically sea of sage,
right?
And they'll just see you coming. They don't really use cover. They can be in ankle. And they're big birds in ankle-high sage.
And you'll never see them.
They blend in well, but they're seeing you coming. And then they use their wings to get to escape. They don't really run all that much.
No, and it was interesting to me, too. The more I've hunted them, where I started to look for them changed. You think sage grouse, sagebrush. But what I've found, and I'm interested to see what you think about this, is there can actually be too much sagebrush. Mm-hmm. Like if it's too high, because you hit the nail on the head. I think when you said they use their eyes, they're looking for danger, and if they can't see because they're in too thick a cover, then they feel very, very vulnerable. And I've shot them in some of the big greasewood patches and stuff where maybe the weather pushed them in there for a little while. And they're going hunkered down. I was just going
to say it's probably
hot
weather.
Hot weather, whether it's hot or a
they're
thunderstorm.
Trying to escape, but
yeah, but otherwise, man, just normal day. They're out in pretty scanty cover, and you don't see them. It's like they just blow up at your feet, and you're like, where did that giant bird come from?
What's interesting is there's another tactic of of hunting that the sage grouse in particular that I use for. I have older gentlemen that will come out and they know that they really want the experience, but they know they're limited on walking.
Yeah.
And I watch them walk and I'm like, oh, they can't climb this hill.
Right.
And so they know. They came out. I didn't steer them the wrong direction. They know what they were coming out for and their abilities. So it's almost like glassing for antelope in that country. You just drive the roads and you can glass them like you're hunting for big game.
Yes.
And it's amazing how sometimes that's when you do suddenly see them.
I've shot a bunch of sage grouse while I was antelope hunting, and because you bump into them, and then they're more of a target of opportunity, and then they're great for a young dog.
Yeah,
and it's usually if you're seeing groups, it's usually those hens with birds of the year with them, and they're pretty naive. Awesome to get a young dog on. Yeah, for sure.
They are kind of like big game in a way of like the bachelor groups.
Yes.
A big elk or mule deer will go hang out together, in just 2s and 3s. And same as the bombers. The big male sage grouse will go out by themselves or in 2s and 3s.
You don't see them mixed together very often.
So we'll get in, people will come out and want a bomber. I'm like, well, either you get lucky.
Yeah.
Or we go to places I know I'll scout and know where males have been hanging out, usually up high. They go up high and
way higher than people think.
Yep, they'll go up high. 10,000 feet. I've seen them at.
Yes,
it's crazy. So
I've seen them on the face of the bighorns at the top.
Yep,
like up at Medicine Wheel, up there on those big open ridges. Yep. I don't know how many sage grouse I've seen up there over the years.
Someone hiked Heart Mountain is by us. I believe it was my uncle hiked it with his girlfriend or something a couple years ago, and he was like, "Oh yeah, there's 2 male sage grouse at the very top."
At the very top.
Yeah, just hanging. And so then you're hunting the big sea of sage, the sage grouse type country with your dogs, and then suddenly 20 get up and they're like, which one's the bomb? Which one do I shoot? I'm like, no, these are going to be all young birds. Yeah. These are going to be,
Yeah, that's been my experience too. When you see the big groups, it's usually hens and birds of the year for sure. That's interesting. There's such a captivating bird for me, and I don't target them exclusively very often, but I would bet you get a lot of calls. The fact that you're booked out through 26 would tell me you probably get a lot of calls from guys who are like, hey, I want to shoot a sage grouse.
Yep.
I was talking to a guy in Cody that does falconry. I was trying to get permission on a duck feed actually, and I thought maybe this one house I drove in, and a guy came out, and these 2 beautiful setters came running out the door first, and they're all petting the dogs and stuff, and he comes walking on, how can I help you? And didn't end up being the landowner, but it was okay. We talked birds, and he said that he does sage grouse trips with falconry. And he's cool. Like, dude, I'm booked out years in advance, and it's people from all over the world.
Yep.
Because we're the only place that you can do that. The Western United States, there's only sage grouse in a few places.
I'm the same way. I've had guys from all over the world. One in particular that I can think of off the top of my head, just because we had a great time together, was Francisco from Italy.
Oh, really?
And he was in the States, in Georgia, working as a vet or something. Something that he did something in that field, maybe a vet tech. But anyways, he drove all the way in some crappy car he bought when he got to the States, like maybe $2,000 car.
Yeah.
All the way from Georgia to come out just to get a sage grouse.
That's so cool.
And so he had someone he didn't get his license. It was kind of weird how he was explaining. It was hard to understand at first when he was going to book it, and then got a better understanding. He had a friend in Georgia that he met that was an American citizen that wanted to hunt sage grouse, but he just wanted the experience.
Oh.
Like he had a dog with him that wasn't even a hunting dog. He just wanted to take it. He's just like, I just love the thought of sage grouse. They're just so iconic that he wanted to come see it and see someone hunt it with like real hunting dogs. He had kind of a fake hunting dog.
Right.
Yeah. And so it was just crazy how he paid all that money to not even really
Not
hunt
even
him.
kill a bird.
Yeah. And
Just
so
wanted to see
he
it.
was more stoked than anyone when we got it was right away in the morning. It shot a double right away. And so the day was over.
Yeah, you
and
done
he
pretty quick.
loved it. Just loved it. He's
That's
like, what do we do
awesome.
now? I'm like, well, the chuckers and Huns
Yeah.
are available. He was like, oh, I don't really care about those, but we can
Yeah.
extend the day out a little bit
I could shoot chuckers
to
in
watch
Italy.
dogs point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool. Well, I just think it's awesome that you cater to that you offer that, and then the chucker hunting and the Hun hunting, it's fascinating to me. I'm being a Labrador guy. It's a challenge to hunt. They're a challenge to hunt with labs. You can do it, but you got to keep that dog really close.
Yep.
And my old dog was tougher to hunt him with because he wanted to go. My young dog checks in and he stays nice and tight, so I can hunt him with him, and he actually does a really nice job with it. But there's something about turning loose some big running pointing dogs and just letting them sweep country, man.
In our country, it's pretty open, but there's so many breaks and gullies and hills and even mountains, depending on where you come from, that some people consider out in the prairie, some of those big hills to be mountains. But I got dogs that'll run from anywhere from 150. They're really not closer than 100. 100, 150, all the way out to 500 yards.
Yeah.
And I put, I find that 2 to 4 is the best number in our country at a time. And they'll just go out and it's amazing how once the dogs get them pointed, they don't run that much, especially if they get them pointed. A lot of the hunt for chuckers, for example, they want to run uphill and fly downhill.
Always.
And if a dog loops around above the chuckers, it seals off their escape, and they'll just hold a point. They're trained to just hold until we get there. So if they're 500 yards out and it's a big mountain to climb, it might take us 20 minutes to get there. Yeah,
exactly.
And we'll slowly but
How
surely
do you
get
get
there.
a dog to do that? Is it something that your dogs are kind of that the breeding is kind of like they circle a bird and get them cut off, or do you work with that in the off season to train that?
So I am kind of on the higher end of the wild bird hunts for my pricing, but at the same time, it's because I'm investing so much time and money and effort into getting good dogs and giving everyone a good experience.
Right.
And so I travel the country to find the best dogs. And
well,
then,
when you talk about higher
end.
end, I'm just going to address that real quick and I went to your website when I first met you last year. I'm like, I'm going to check out what this guy's all about. And I went to your website, and I didn't think you were outrageously priced at all, because I know what you're out there doing. Mm-hmm. I know the amount of work it takes and the logistics that it takes to even be successful personally, let alone putting other people on birds. So I don't think you're high.
Well, you and I know what it takes,
right?
So that's why I think I'm very reasonable priced.
Oh yeah, and you're cooking for people, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into it.
It's 1,000 a gun in the sage grouse season, minimum 2 guns, but max of 3 for one guide, and then I have to get another guide if it's any over that over 3. But so a couple grand a day, and people are like, "Oh, that's a lot of money to come travel out there and spend." But you and I get it. You're like that. Yeah. I mean, to me, that's
you're going to spend that, the equivalent of that, to go to South Dakota. And I'm not knocking South Dakota. It's a fun time. But to go and shoot, in a lot of cases, wild birds that are supplemented with pen-raised birds.
Exactly.
And you're gonna do a lot of banging. You're gonna see a lot of birds and shoot a lot of birds, but it's a different experience.
Yep.
And man, out here to have that adventure experience and see this country and wild birds in their element. You don't control how the hatch was in the spring. In the last couple of years, we've had really great bird numbers of Huns and chuckers. Yeah.
It's been incredible. I've just been shocked. Every time there's a little boom in the population of Huns and chuckers, I'm like, oh, it's going to plummet. Mm-hmm. And then it hasn't yet. We keep seeing it.
I know. It seems like 3 years in a row we've had stupid good numbers of birds. And I'm like, I keep telling my wife, I got to get a bird dog. I got to get a bird dog. I got to get a bird dog. I'm like, these numbers are through the roof. This is the time to get a bird dog. And I don't know when I would find the time to work it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
thing.
Honestly, it would be more advantageous for me to go, hey, dude, let's go hunting. You know,
yeah, exactly.
I'll throw some money down and let's go do a hunt but I still have that fascination with I want a big running bird dog, but I don't know if I have the time to do the dog justice.
They're amazing. They're amazing to watch, and to go back on your question of how you get the dogs.
Sorry, we kind of
it's okay. It happens. So it's one, it's their pedigree. You know, sure. I travel the country. You know, I drove all the way to Oklahoma to pick up setters. That's a guy out of Oklahoma. Now I'm starting to breed my own. I got the line I kind of want, so that's how I'm getting pups now. But that's where I started.
Okay.
I found. I started very first with a Patriot dog, Tacoma Mountain.
Okay.
It's kind of a famous English setter. If guys are in the setter world, they would probably know that name.
Sure.
And so I started with her. Got him out. Got her. Her name's Lady. Got her out of Oregon, and then just loved the pedigree. Where I would just search around and try to find similar pedigrees, and I found some in Oklahoma. And twice now traveled all the way to Oklahoma to pick up a dog because transportation for dog transports to Wyoming don't exist. People are like, why would I go to the least populated state? I can't make money traveling through Wyoming.
Yeah.
And there's no highway, freeways going through what.
Dude, we drove to pick up Hondo in Mississippi from Southern Oak Kennels. We rented an RV and made a video out of the whole process. And it took us forever. We drove an RV from Wyoming all the way down to Mississippi, back roads. I mean, it was like a tour of America. But
that's great.
But what are the options? You know what I mean? It's like I got to have him flown out, but I'd rather make the road trip and go get one.
Yep. I weighed my options, and and just traveling out there, I had time. It was kind of in the off season, so I was like weighed my options, and that's what I chose to do.
Right.
And it was great. I thought it was great fun. I made a little venture out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Saw some new country. The same happened twice now. I've been down to Beaver, Utah to get what is it, best gun dogs, I believe. I hope I didn't get that wrong, but for my GSPs.
Okay.
And so they're great. They're on a limited registration, so I can't sell their pups or anything.
Right.
But I was just slowly, I got into the GSP world for the first time recently. My older GSP is 5 years old.
Okay.
And then so I have another they're both males. I have another young male that's 3. And I just have the 2 GSPs. And I love them in different ways. They're, but at the same time, I'm not positive. I'm okay with them being on a limited registration because I'm not exactly sold on them. They're just high strung. If you're not,
they are electricity wrapped in skin.
If you're not, everyone's like, they're so sweet. I'm like, yeah, I get that. But mine are all about hunting and drive, and they're actually not chopped, so they're not fit. So that might add to their aggression. So they're kind of more, not mean, but kind of edgy. And, I'm all about hunting and business.
It's funny you say that.
They're very standoffish.
Yeah,
people go to pet them, and he's like, no, I'm hunting.
I'm a hunting dog.
Yeah.
I've seen that across the board with German breeds across the board. I don't care what they are. They're just a little edgier than the British dogs and the French dogs, for sure. It's like, there's a reason that I prefer British Labs. It's the same thing. They're just more chill. Yeah. They have more of an off switch and lots of go when I need it. Yeah. But there's more of that off switch there. And we did a hunt with Montana Upland, and the guys up there a few years ago, and it was cold and late season, and it was sharptail and huns and pheasants. And man, they put an interesting mix of dogs on the ground depending on what type of cover we were hunting. But But it's a similar operation to yours. It's all wild birds, big country.
Cool.
And they'd have some English pointers out running that were, I mean, you couldn't even see them. I mean, they were way out there. And then they'd have some closer working dogs like a wire hair or something on the ground. And same thing. The English pointers, or if they had a setter on the ground, when it's time to stand around and take a break, dog was right there, wanted to be petted, and was nice and chill. And the German dogs are just like,
exactly.
it's just funny.
All my setters, they just let's see, I'm down to the lowest amount of dogs I've had in a while, actually, but they're all good dogs. So, and they all have lots of energy and stamina. I keep them in great shape. They can go 3 days straight even. Yeah. And so, and then get a rest. But I have 8 dogs right now. That's it.
You got to have a big number of dogs, though. With one of the guys that works with Montana Uplands named Bryce DeVries. And Bryce runs high step kennels or high step setters. Or not setters, high step gun dogs. I think that's what it is. And super good dude. And he trains and breeds and hunts pointers, English pointers. And same thing, man. He's got a giant number of dogs. But you have to, because you're just wearing dogs out in this country. Just wearing them out. Just the amount of ground you're going to cover, the amount of ground the dog has to cover to find birds. And you go back to the pedigree of what that dog does. I would imagine, anyway, that you're out here in a few weeks when those clutches can fly and we can legally get dogs on the ground to train on wild birds. I'm sure you're out covering country as much as you possibly can to get those dogs not only in shape, but get them trained up on how those birds move. Because it's like a dog can only learn to do some of that stuff by doing it.
Exactly, yeah.
This episode of the Wingmen Podcast is brought to you by Kryptek. Guys, camouflage and quality hunting garments and apparel are vitally important to success in the field. You want to be out there when you want to be out there and for as long as you want to be out there. And you need high quality garments and clothing and gear that's going to keep you concealed at the same time. Kryptek's variety of camouflage patterns and the offerings of apparel that they bring to market are second to none. I love being partnered with that company. I love the shared ethos that we have. I love the shared values that we have. And I'm super proud to support a veteran-owned American company like Kryptek.
A lot of this, I mean, I use pigeons for dog training and stuff, just to get them on scent and whoa and all that. But to get them on these birds out in the country is, a lot of it is, I just drive roads, because they can go, and I don't have the time to go walk 10 miles every day. So I keep in shape. I'm one of the only guys I know that roads my Labrador. Yeah.
He's big and fast and strong, and he's got stamina, and I cannot wear him out on a walk unless we go to the mountains a lot, and he's fishing and stuff, and then he's covering ground, and he'll be tired for a little bit. But if I really need to ramp his endurance up, man, I have to road him.
Yep.
Early mornings, I have to put him on the road because I can't cover the amount of ground it takes to get him in the shape I need him to. And obviously doing a ton of water work, helps too, but it's effortless for a dog like that to swim, even on our fast rivers. It's not a big deal for him. He can swim all day out there.
Yeah, I take mine out to the lake and they swim around and run around for 4 hours. They even hang out there, and it's still nothing. They're ready to go the next day and do it again. So I have to road them and go mile. I do the whole I do it like a 17-mile loop, and they run the whole way.
Wow.
They are in extreme.
I can't do that.
Shape.
You can't do that with a lab. They're not
and
built
that's
that way.
Truck miles. So who knows what they're
dogs are covering twice that much.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy. So just the amount of work that you've got going into this. One of the things I noticed on your website, your hunts feature meals, but I didn't see any lodging on the website. What does a hunt like that look like for lodging for guys?
Yeah, so I do offer kind of some lodging packages, some different hunt packages where you can do like a partridge package and you come out for multiple days to do, or there's a bighorn basin package where you mix fly fishing in with it. There's a grouse package where you travel to Wyoming and target all 4 species of grouse.
I saw that,
Yeah.
and I wondered about. I saw your grouse package, and obviously roughies and blues we've got right here, and we'll call them duskies now, but and then obviously
And the
sage grouse.
Yep.
But we don't have sharptail here.
Correct. Yeah.
Where are you doing that? I don't want specific
No, it's
areas.
okay.
I just
It's okay.
feel like you've got to obviously travel a little bit
Yep.
to do that.
East of Sheridan, Buffalo area.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. It's a less travel than going all the way east towards Nebraska and all that.
Yeah.
Country
There's good
down
numbers
there.
of sharptail over there.
Yep, there is. They've been down a little bit. I've been limiting my trips just because of it takes so much time to travel over there. It keeps me away from doing hunts around here where the birds have been so great.
It's
and
interesting too, yeah, because for folks that aren't familiar with our geography here, we've got to travel over a mountain range to get to where the sharptail are.
Yeah,
that's the geographic barrier, and where we live, where we're sitting right now, where you live and I live, is a basin. Basically, it's a mountain basin
surrounded by mountain,
and it's high desert.
Yeah.
It's high desert. It's 4,000 to 7,000 feet.
Yep.
And it's high desert. It's not grassland like you find north of us in Montana and east of us in eastern Wyoming, which is largely private land hunting over there too. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure you've got connections over there to get guys on birds.
Yeah, so some private access over on the eastern side of the Bighorn Mountains.
Yep.
But around here, some private access, but you don't really need it because it's just so much public land. Like
we're blessed with
so much public opportunities.
What's your take? Okay, so let's talk about public land for a second, because that's the hot button topic right now.
It has been, yeah.
Yep, and when the big beautiful bill passed the House, the Zinke's committee basically got the language stripped, but now it's back.
Yep, it's back.
And I don't know. I'm obviously a huge public land advocate. Most of the hunting I do is on public land, especially bird hunting. But it obviously your business model is going to hinge on what that bill does.
Yep.
And, I don't foresee like a wholesale sell-off of all the BLM ground and all the National Forest ground. But it's not a stretch that in 15 or 20 years that could happen either.
Yep, it would really hit my business hard.
Yeah, it's like a slippery slope, man. And once it starts, you can't stop it.
Yep. And so, but, I could then go more like Montana or the Dakotas or other places and go more big ranch style and try to lease up a ranch. But Wyoming's kind of odd where we're different, I guess. A lot of the ranches around here, they bought it for the peace and quiet, and they already have plenty of money. They don't need someone coming on their land and leasing it.
They don't want people on their land.
They want to be left alone.
Yeah.
Kinda. So you knock on the door and not interested. Thank you.
And you're a local guy. You've been here your whole life.
Exactly.
And so you've seen it come and go. Your dad, 40 years, hunting here, or more than that probably, but he's been doing it forever.
Yep.
So you guys have seen stuff come and go. We were talking before we sat down about the influx of people into our area and how it is making things more difficult. And, that's the whole public land sell-off premise in Utah and Nevada is for affordable housing. Those they're stripped out. They don't have any place to expand. And I kind of look at it and I'm like, okay, so let's look at that on a case-by-case basis. Is there a piece that we could sell, to do this? Okay. When we start talking about it, I feel like the public land thing is a really slippery slope.
It is. It's dangerous because, is there a little piece out of town that we can put up some more affordable housing? Because we're seeing it here. The amount of money coming to our area is driving your normal workers out of places to live. I mean, your servers and all that, the McDonald's workers or whatever. It's like, where do they live? The rent is just, the interest rates went up, and so the rent is just, they can charge whatever for the rent because people aren't going to go homeless.
Right.
Suddenly you're only making $3,000 a month, but your rent is $2,200. How are you going to live off $800?
Well, and then pretty soon there's 8-10 people living in an apartment.
Yep.
So I get it. I get the need to look at it. The thing that bothers me about it is it's like this isn't an all or nothing proposition. It's not a wholesale thing. It's like, no, let's maximize the revenue that we have off these assets. You know, we could open bidding and get more competitive leases for GMUs. GMUs. I'm basically cattle grazing allotments. We could look at doing some more forestry and logging work, because there's not a lot of that happening either. There's ways I feel like we could make that asset profitable, but without getting rid of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, no, we still need this. And the usage of public land across the United States, and especially in the West, has changed. It used to be for logging and energy development and grazing, and now I feel like it's changed. Usage has changed to more recreation. And you start taking that away from people, and I don't want to see that.
I don't either. It's scary. It's like you said, case by case. Maybe I could see that.
Right.
But you start selling massive amounts. It's dangerous. It's like, what if the federal government came in and said, "Oh, but we could sell this 70,000 acre, you know, whatever it be. There's BLM land in here that go like 1 million acres. You know, it's insane how much acreage of BLM there is here. You know, they're like, what if we sell this huge chunk to some big private ranch to get out of debt? That's what I'm scared of. It's like, let's get out of our debt. And it's like, you're not doing that for affordable housing. You're doing that to get a big, large paycheck. And it's scary.
That's what I see too, man. And I don't like it.
I'm not for another tax on the sportsman. I'm not, you know, I don't like it. Just there's always these little fees that suddenly come up. Now you can't park here without paying $10, where you used to always. I'm not for that.
And you've seen that your whole life.
I have.
And it's like, there's places that I know where you're talking about, and I'm like, I bought a pass. Why do I need to pay a day fee?
And then now, so I'm not for that. But at the same time, you hit on the recreation. People want it for that reason. What if we charge everyone that's on BLM, charge a $10 rec fee to access BLM?
You got to have a BLM
or
pass.
Something. Yeah. How many millions of people are going to buy that?
And I don't know what the
suddenly
answer,
10 times a million.
I don't know what the answer is, but I think there could be creative solutions.
I'm just throwing that off the top of my head. Again,
absolutely.
not for another tax on the sportsman.
I'm with you.
But like, don't get rid of the land.
I know.
So
I know. It's funny. We were going along talking about hunting and dogs, and all of a sudden the specter of public land sell off, because it's a real deal right now.
It's scary.
And it is scary, you know. And I would highly encourage you guys. It's easy to take 10 minutes, 5 minutes out of your day and get a hold of your senators. Your senators are who you want to contact right now. You could do that on a Google search, man. It is so easy. Plus, there's organizations like TRCP, the Teddy Roosevelt Conservation Partnership. They have links on their website. A lot of these NGOs have links on their websites. But honestly, all I did was Google John Barrasso and Cynthia Lummis, and it takes you right to their page. They have a contact link. It took me less than 5 minutes to write out a message. I bet they're getting sick of hearing from me now, because I bet I've messaged them 5 or 6 times now. But it's like, they need to be hearing that from their constituency, saying, pump the brakes.
Yeah.
It's getting rid of this is not, you know.
This is not what we wanted.
No.
This is not why we voted for you.
Right.
Please know that this is not why. Hear my voice.
Exactly.
Because some people, like in Utah, and it's like that's why, that's what you voted for. That's
right.
What, you know, better economy and capitalism. And
we voted for you to do a job, but we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yep. Exactly.
You know, do your job, but do it right. Don't just slash and hack. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I'm a very conservative guy, but I see some of the stuff and I'm like, no, there's better ways. We can do this. And anyway, I don't want to beat that to death. I feel like there's a lot of people, a lot of groups, a lot of sportsmen's groups in particular out there that are kind of fear-mongering with that a little bit to drive traffic and follows and things. And I don't appreciate that either. You know, it was like, we have a young lady that works remote for us that has been managing our social media accounts, because it's just gotten to the point where I can't do it all by myself anymore. And she asked the other day, do you want to do an homage to Phil Robertson when Phil passed 2 weeks ago? And I said, no. I said, I don't. I said, I've been following that man since I was in high school, longer. I had all of his VHSs and everything he could produce before Duck Dynasty was even a dream. I said, I was a Duck Commander fan when I was a young man. And I said, I don't want to get follows and likes because I threw out a post about a man I've never met.
Yeah.
Just because he was an important figure in my life. But I never met him. I never got the pleasure to meet him, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do that.
Try to get.
And I feel that way about public land too. It's like there's a fine line between beating that drum and making people aware, and just using it to drive traffic to a social media page. You know. So I would say is I would encourage you to get a hold of your senators.
Yep. I'm. So my my Instagram, and Facebook went up on a video that went viral. But I was mentioning earlier how I'm not, active on it just because all the messages I get, the spam I get flooded with. But to relate it to what we were just talking about is like I'm not on there to get likes and follows and famous on Instagram. And people are like, did you make money on that? And I'm like, no, I don't know how to do that. I'm not big on social media. I'm not gonna go on there and post something just to get another 87 million views again.
Yes.
That's not my business model. Right. Is to be famous on Instagram. Now, did my followers go way up? Yeah, I think I'm verified and have like 52,000 or something.
Wow.
But that's not what I'm about. I'm about offering I enjoy people's company and taking them and showing beautiful land and giving them a good experience down the river or out in the country hunting birds. And I just love working dogs. That's what I'm trying. And maybe I would, if I did go more social media route and get more followers, and I'd probably make more money.
Sure.
It's amazing how our economy works.
It's a powerful tool, but I'm with you. It's as a content producer, which is pretty much what we do here. We have obligations to partners and things where we need to get so many eyeballs, and that's part of the game. I get it. But at the end of the day, I want to be known for a social media following, or what kind of husband and father I was.
Exactly.
What kind of steward of the natural resources that I've been blessed to be a part of. That's what's really important to me.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, yeah, okay, I get it, but it's not the end all be all. But yeah, man, holy smokes, we've been all over the place. I'm loving this conversation. But back to the lodging side of things. So when people book a hunt with you, is there a lodge they're going to stay at?
So to go back to that, the packages, when we have to travel around, we just travel around to different. I have some hotels that I work with, some chains that like give me a little discount so I can make it a little more affordable in the package for people. When it's more local, a lot of times I just offer the day rate. It's just easier, and then give them suggestions on where to stay.
Sure.
Ask them questions of like, what kind of experience for lodging do you like? Do you like Airbnbs? Do you like big, pretty views and a big house, even though there's two of you?
Yeah.
Do you like a dive motel? And then, once I gather that information, I can help them out where to stay. But I do offer for some people really like to be catered to, which is totally fine. Where they don't want to get online, like they may have got my number from someone and having checked out my website, they don't get online. They don't. It's just a hassle to them for them to think about where to look to get a stay. They're like, so you book it for me. So I offer a lodging package. I have I put them up in the IV usually.
Yeah. Yep.
So I work with the one of the managers at the IV where I email and say, hey, book this gentleman or lady sometimes a room, and then we're good to go. They reserve it.
I love that, because your model is different than, I would say, the majority of bird hunting experiences out there, because you're you need to be mobile. You're chasing wild birds in big country. You need to be mobile. Hey, we might be down, 100 miles.
Yep.
We're not going to make that drive every single day, but this is where we're going to hunt.
Yeah.
There's a little town here. There's a little motel. I've made all the arrangements for you.
I can meet you at that little motel, that
Yep.
sort of thing. Or if you like the amenities Cody offer better, you can ride with me every day. That's fine. But I lay that all out right away. I really take pride in offering good customer service, and just I just love the people that come out.
Yeah,
I do. I really enjoy it. Not very many people get on my nerves.
I think it's great the way you have that set up, because it lends flexibility. When I feel like if you want the big lodge experience, that exists, but it's probably not going to, you're going to have a hard time finding that with sage grouse, wild chuckers, huns, wild pheasants, wild mountain grouse.
Yep.
That's a hard thing to find, simply because the landscapes that those birds need to thrive are so vast and so big that you got to be a little more mobile, a little more flexible.
Yeah,
if you
live in
want
a
super cush, if you want that super cush lodge experience, South Dakota's got some pretty good pheasant hunting.
Yeah, right. Exactly. There's nice places out there. So I got a lot of them are Orvis endorsed lodges. I would check out.
And you're an Orvis endorsed outfit.
I'm a Orvis endorsed guide. Yep. So I do bring in that sort of clientele that are looking for that. But again, I lay it all out right away and tell them, but we might be driving 2 hours today to hunt. We're going to go where the birds are and where I think the best opportunity is to get you on birds, and just lay it out so there's no surprises.
I love it.
And they're like, great. Yeah.
Yep, I love it.
I'll book a place and we'll just figure it out. It's the same with fishing. I mean, sometimes you can't predict the weather or what's going to blow out with a big rainstorm or anything. So I just booked a trip the other day for July. It can be an awesome month to fish, but
it can blow up too.
So I'm like, I don't know where we're going. Somewhere around Cody, somewhere around the Yellowstone area.
And you guys are the only licensed outfitter from Wyoming that can guide in Yellowstone.
Not from Wyoming, from this area.
From this area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that may have changed. Maybe someone's wing got permits. I'm not sure, but Jackson people, I think, have some. There's some around that.
But the point, I guess my point is, if guys come out and they're September, so much to do here, and you've kind of got that cast and blast package that you can hunt grouse, you get a couple days of fishing. Guys like, man, I really, really, really want to go in the park. Yeah. You could do that.
I can take them in the park, yes.
That's cool. That's cool. I love how just flexible you are, man, and how much stuff you offer. You got something for everybody. You got the pheasant hunting. But I just love the local flavor of what you do, and the fact that it's an adventure. That's the biggest thing. If you're listening to this, you book a trip with Ryan, it's going to be an adventure.
That's what I love about it. It's not just going to
be a cut and dry copy and paste bird hunt.
Yeah.
I love
it. So I had a couple gentlemen last year, and like I do with everyone, I lay it all out. This is what we're going to do and all this. And they refused to ride in my truck and then complained about how long. And I was like, I laid everything out like I always do. Yep. In fact, I have the emails right here, so I don't know what. And it was the one group that they didn't destroy me. I mean, nothing happened with my business, but it was the one group that wrote into Orvis about how terrible I was. We hunted no cover. You don't know what Wyoming looks like. This is the cover the bird's in. I'm the expert. There's a saying, don't guide the guide.
Yes.
They guided the guide all day. This isn't where we hunt. There's no birds here. We didn't see anything. I'm like, that's because you're screaming at your dog and slamming truck doors and everything, and they all flew off. And they're like, I didn't see anything fly off. I'm like,
these are wild birds.
And I'm just trying to keep my patience. I was like, let's just move on and go, And they left. They didn't even finish their hunt.
Wow.
And so I guess the point of that little story was just to really push on the fact that it's like that's the experience. It's wild adventure, bumpy roads, all of it. Wild birds, you might not get a shot, but that's what you're paying for is the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone knows that, whether they want to admit that I told them that or not.
Yep.
You know, they wrote in something about we've hunted wild birds other places and they don't act like that. I'm like, well, yeah, hunting Bob White's in Kansas,
Yeah.
they aren't going to act like
That's
chuckers in Wyoming.
That's a
Like,
different thing.
I'm just like blown away. They thought that was a good thing to nail on. To
You're going to get some of that, you know, no matter
it's just
where
part
you
of
do.
it.
I don't care if you're guiding big game, wild upland bird hunts. You're going to, you know, fly fishing, waterfowl. You're going to get some people that you just can't please.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they're the minority.
Yeah.
I really feel like, I mean, you and I could sit here and talk bad clients on fly fishing trips, and it's pretty rare.
It really is. I'd say 99% of them. And I put pride in that. I love the clients that come out. I love I love taking them. At the end of the day, they're like, wow, thank you, all that. And I'm like, no, truly, thank you. Like, I love doing this. I love being a people pleaser and showing them a great experience.
It's fun to show off your home.
Yeah.
I had a dude last fall, and I tried usually with balancing Wingmen responsibilities and Eastman's responsibilities. Usually September, the fly rods are put away, and it's on to chasing elk.
Yep.
Big game.
Yep.
Or some early birds. But I had an opportunity to guide a couple of trips in September last year, and I took them. And the last guy that I had, it was it was middle of the month, and I'm just like, dude, I should be in the mountains chasing elk. What am I doing? But the fishing was on fire.
It can be a great month to fish.
It was on fire. And I told the guy right out of the gate in the morning, I was like, we're either going to see fish that are super chompy and aggressive, or they may be in a fall funk. I said, I don't know what we're going to run into, but we're going to have a good time.
Yep.
And dude, right out of the gate, there's fish up cruising shallow flats, and dude, he was a gentleman from the southeast, and he was used to fishing blue lines in the mountains in North Carolina and stuff. And I told him, I said, what are your goals? I asked him, and he said, I want to catch the biggest brown trout of my life today. I said, well, how big is that? And he goes, anything over about 14 inches. I was like, oh yeah, well,
you're like, okay,
probably handle that, bro.
Hopefully. But at the same time, you never know.
You know, he ended up hanging a 25-inch brown.
Oh, that's awesome.
On a hopper.
Oh, perfect.
In like 6 inches of water.
Perfect.
And
so you can see it, and yeah.
And that was one of, I don't know how many fish he caught that day. We got to the end of the day, and I had so much fun with him because his attitude was so good. He was just a ton of fun to be around. It was like fishing with a buddy.
Yeah.
About an hour and a half in, it was like just fishing with a buddy. Super chill. Got to the end of the day, and I was just like, he hands me a wad of cash for the gratuity, and I'm like, I don't even want this, bro. I said, this was just a ton of fun. He's like, no, you earned it. He's like, dude, I literally caught the 10 of the biggest trout I've ever seen in my life today. And I was like, well, that was the goal, man. And I'm just thinking, I'm glad it worked out. But just a pleasure of a human being to spend a day on the water.
Isn't that great when that happens? I mean,
it is.
I've had that happen a few times where we didn't get anything, and it was just a pleasure being with them, and they enjoyed my company as well.
Especially when I used to do walk and wade trips in the mountains out of Sheridan.
Oh yeah, just give them.
Because
beautiful
some days, most of the time up there, you're gonna pound on the fish pretty good, but especially back in those days, because it was before it got even more popular than it is now.
Yep.
But I had multiple trips where people they'd fish for a little bit and they just want to sit and look around.
Yep.
And there's like, no, you don't understand, man. I'm from Philadelphia. I don't get to see this.
Oh yeah.
And I'm missing it because I'm so focused on the fishing. You know, and I'm just like, no, fishing. You're gotta do this and driven. And it's like, no, let them chill. And it's got to be the same for you with the bird hunting.
It's bird hunting, fly fishing, all of it. That's what I've learned. Not necessarily learned, because I kind of assumed that when I was starting.
Yeah, it's like, I love this. Why wouldn't other people?
This, and I grew up here.
Right.
People that have never seen this are just going to be blown away. So that's going to be the part of the business model of like, you're paying for this experience. You're going to be blown away. And so that's part of why you sit on a ridge top and just see the whole Bighorn Basin with the Absarokas out and then the Bighorns and then the Owl Creek, and you just see it all. You can get on a little hill in the Bighorn
so cool.
and see it all. You can see,
So
yeah.
Cool.
And
I hate talking about it too much because it's such a gem of a place.
Yeah.
But it's also not for everybody. It's like you said with your clients. It takes a special kind of person to live here because we're a long ways from amenities that most people hold pretty highly as important. You don't just run out here and do this and do that. And in fact, I've had a lot of people fishing and they just come out and whatever that are like, man, this is beautiful, but I couldn't live here. And in fact, I don't even want to hunt this by myself because it scares me. It's such big country. It's like, what happens if we have a flat tire out here? And I'm like, well, I have a contingency plan for that. But for a lot of folks, that level of wild and adventure is intimidating, and that's where you come in because it's like, we're safe out here.
Yeah.
We're safe out here. Even if we do bump into a grizzly bear over this next ridge, it's going to be okay.
Yep. I have all the experience to keep people safe, all the training and all that, and just grew up doing it. I mean, I was driving a pickup on the back roads when I could reach pedals. Yeah. And then when I got my license, I camped out on my 16th birthday, the night before I was 15. The night before, I camped outside the driver's license plate because I had already saved up money mowing lawns to buy my first truck, so I already had it bought.
Yeah, buddy.
And I camped out to get my and I was gone. I was out in the country. That's what I did as a kid growing up.
So let's get into that a little bit, man. I mean, you obviously we've established you have a passion for this. I mean, it emanates out of you. If you guys listening to this, I would encourage you to go to the YouTube channel and check out the video of this as well, or maybe Facebook, because and just look at Ryan because it just emanates out of you, man. And you could tell it's a passion of yours. Where did that come from? I mean, you're a local, you've been here your whole life. And I think a lot of that, to see that you're still on fire for it, that's intoxicating. It's super cool to see.
Yeah, well, thank you for one, because I do get that compliment from some of the people, because everyone knows that's been on a guided trip or maybe is a guide and knows that guide that I don't know if they get crusty and grumpy and burnt out, or everyone knows that guy that barks at you and people are like, dude, I'm on vacation. Like, what? Like, why are you yelling? I don't care if we catch a fish, but you're kind of annoying me now. Yeah. Like, yeah, no, I'm the total opposite. I'm like, I love it. Oh, we missed, and it's always we missed one, or
it's we. Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm just
because you're involved in it, and it's got to be the same with the bird hunting.
Yeah.
I know when I'm running clients, I want to see them succeed, and I'm working really hard to make them successful or help them find that success. So it's like a team effort out there. It's got to be the same thing with the birds.
Yep, it is. I absolutely to go back to what you ask of where I got that from. You nailed it. Just the passion growing up, just the passion for doing it. My dad was taking me out hunting birds in a car seat. He has a funny story. I bet we were 3-4 years old, 3 years old in a car seat, and he's running a dog, and we're in his old Zoo Trooper drive-in because we can't walk that much. 3 years old. Yeah. And dog goes on point. He gets out and grabs his gun and shoots it. And I guess I was in the back seat just screaming, cheering for my dad. And then my brother was crying, so he didn't get the passion. So I guess you're just born with it in a way. Or you just, yeah. I was going down the river, I was going down the river in a raft with a few people, rowing a raft at 15, 16 years old. Right. My dad would pick me up. One time we flipped his raft though. My brother did. And he wasn't happy.
I wasn't too happy about that.
He's like, maybe I shouldn't let 16-year-old kids go down whitewater.
As a father whose kids are pretty adventurous, and I've done the same stuff your dad did with mine. I mean, they're just out with us all the time. Yeah. I would bet he was less upset that you flipped the raft and more upset that you had a life threatening experience on the river. Cause I as a dad, I could see where if one of my kids busts up my boat, I'm like, I don't care about the boat. Are you okay?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If I remember right, it was
and
like...
then it makes you mad because you're scared.
If I remember right, I'm sure as a dad, I'm a dad myself. I'm sure he had that feeling. But if I remember right, it was more he saw me and knew I was okay.
Yeah, and then
it was more like, so where's my boat?
What did
and
you
I was
do?
like, by the way, I'm okay. He was like, well,
Yeah.
I can see that,
Yeah,
so I
like,
think those feelings went away. He saw it. He's like, he's fine.
It's the funniest thing about being a dad is it's like my kids' welfare is number one priority for me, but it's like when they do something that scares me, I get mad.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, that's not the right reaction. I should have been way more chill than that. But I was mad because I don't know. It's messed up.
It's a weird feeling. Yeah, I get that the same way being a dad.
So what are you doing with your kids to instill this passion that you have?
Oh gosh, I'll have to show you some videos when we get done or something of my personal Instagram. I take him out fly fishing already. He's 3 years old, the cutest thing in the world, holding a fly rod and helping him cast. And so I have videos of him on a creek over by
don't say it. Just on a creek.
I was gonna say just gonna say the Bighorns.
No Tellum Creek.
No name in the Bighorns.
Yep.
And he's hooked into a nice brown, because some of those Bighorn creeks actually have nice fish, like small creeks. He's hooked into like a 16-inch brown in a small creek.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and they get bigger than that, but yeah. And I'm just telling, lift the rod up, because he always wants to. Well, it's so long. It's 9 feet. Or I think in that I was using a 3-weight, so I think it was 7.6. But for a 3-year-old,
it's hard.
So he's dipping the rod. I'm like, lift it up, trying to and I'm like, reel, stop. Okay, reel. The same with streamer fishing. There's a lake around here that has a lot of smallies. So just to get out of the trout world and do something different, the smallies are fun on a fly rod.
Absolutely.
And I'm getting him to learn to strip and that, but he can't be fast enough. So I'm more. He's holding the rod, I'm stripping, and then suddenly we hook on, and so I get the line to the reel, so he can just kind of hold it and fight it and tell him when to reel. And I let go. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna film you now. And I'm like, reel. He's like, it's getting away. And you can just tell the passion he has. He just absolutely loves it.
That's awesome.
He's like, oh no, Dad, it's getting away. Yeah, so
I love it, dude.
He loves it. He goes out on the boat with me. I get a little scared about what river.
You kind of got to be careful of that. There's and we have a variety of rivers and floats around here. I just started taking my oldest daughter. I've taken all my kids now on the really popular local fishery that doesn't open until July. And I don't have a raft, so I've got to be pretty cautious on there with a hard side, but it's very doable for a few weeks when the water's up.
Yeah.
But they have so much fun.
Yeah,
so much fun.
I'd take my 3-year-old on that trip. He would be okay. That's not that bad. There's a few around here that you hit some rapids. I'm like, okay, come sit on my lap while I row this or whatever. But then it's hard. It's like, what if he's in my way, I row it and knock him out. I put him on the cooler
in front of me, and everybody's got a life vest on.
Yep, so I'll sit him there and just be like, hey, you got to sit right here. Don't move.
Because then I can row. Yep. It's the same way with hunting, and my kids are all, my 4-year-old, he doesn't cover ground as well as my 10-year-old, my 7-year-old, but they're little beasts, man. My girls are beasts, and they love going out and walking up chuckers when it's cold.
Oh, sweet, yeah.
And so much of what we do is focused on waterfowl, so they've got a ton of time in a duck blind, or in a goose field or whatever it might be. And I love that you're getting them out there. I think it's super important because, your dad did that with you, my dad did that with me. And, we could talk hunter recruitment all we want, but I honestly feel like the most effective recruitment we do as hunters is in our own families.
Yep.
That's where we're going to plant that seed that grows. Absolutely.
At a young age, they just, because at 3 years old, even starting him earlier than that, he doesn't know anything but, like, if he loves his dad, that's what he loves. He's like,
this is what we do.
Yeah, this is what we do. He doesn't know any different.
Yep.
And then when he gets older, he can make his own decision. I won't be torn either way, but I have a feeling he would love it just because he's gonna be growing up doing it.
Right.
But yeah, I have a video of we last year, September, just around his birthday, September 3rd. So he just turned 3.
Yeah.
We went up to the mountains and got a blue grouse, and just the gun didn't scare him. Nothing. Just the look on his face. I'll show you the picture. He is carrying his Nerf gun around.
Yeah.
And like he's got his little hunting outfit on,
buddy.
and he's got the Wyoming Wings and Waters orange cap on, but it's adjustable, so I just cinched it down.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's just like, and then even in the picture, he's like trying to crawl down as if like that's what you still do. I'm like, no, we're not hunting. And so I don't know where he learned that from, but like I'm like, oh, you can walk normal when you're bird hunting.
Yeah.
And he's like tiptoeing around
Yep.
with his little Nerf gun. And so then there's another one where he has his Nerf gun, and we were dove hunting, and so you could just drive roads and find doves if you want. They're hard to
we don't have great numbers of doves.
No, and they're hard to kick up like that. They kind of, when you open the truck door, they kind of flow away.
Yep.
But I got one, and so the video goes, film him coming down from the truck carrying his Nerf gun, and he's like, I was like, did you get one? He's like, yeah, you got one, Dad. You can just tell he's so thrilled.
Yep.
And then he went from thrilled to that excitement to he saw the bird, and you could tell it wasn't a sadness, it was just more a curiosity.
Right.
He more like, can I touch it? I'm like, you can touch it, it's okay. And he's like,
yep.
And so it was more a curiosity and like, I've never done this.
Yes.
Yes. But you could tell he's not scared. It was more just like, and then he grabbed it and he was like, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Almost like he's a little nervous.
It's funny you say that, because I've had the same experience with mine. You know, we always, September 1st, we're always up in the mountains looking for grouse.
Yeah.
And, you know, my 10-year-old, she killed her first grouse a couple of years ago, and trying to get my middle girl on one, and it just hasn't worked out. And then my little boy thinks he's going to do it. I'm like, buddy, you can't even, you know, we're still working on just even hitting something right now. But they just want to see those birds. I mean, we shoot them. They don't go in the bed of the pickup. They're in their laps the whole rest of the day, you know, and they're same thing with, I think just instilling that stuff and getting them into it is so important. But
well, it's amazing how at a young age, how much they're developing and learn things. I mean, I go load up the dog, and he's like, oh, we're going to shoot birds? I'm like, he doesn't know what the seasons are. I'm like, no, it's not open right now, but we're going to run dogs. And he's like, oh, will the birds be there? I'm like, there might be, but we're not going to shoot any.
Yep.
Not today. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's just amazing how he knows. We're loading up dogs, and he's like,
we're
going bird hunting.
Good for you. I think that's so important for your kids and for you. And just family stuff is to get them involved in that, you know. And you know, we're we're over an hour, I think, now, and kind of need to wrap this up. But I love everything that you're about, man, and that you do. And I'm glad we made the opportunity to sit down and talk about all this stuff. And if this podcast sparks something in you, and you want to do some adventure bird hunting for wild Wyoming birds, man, get a hold of Wyoming Wings and Waters, guys. You can find them on social media. Probably the website's probably going to be the best way to get a hold of you.
The website, if you want to Orvis, I have a profile on Orvis. Okay. You can go to the Venture website, or just Google endorsed guides in Orvis, and you can find me. There's ways to narrow it down to like Wyoming and that sort of thing.
Right.
And it's cool, because then it gives you a profile to read about me, and it gives you the reviews to read about me. Perfect. To see what actual people say about me. And what I love about those reviews, so they were good reviews. They allowed me to be finalist for 2024 Guide of the Year out of all the guides. I was a finalist for 2024.
That's awesome, dude.
And so that was cool. It was great. That I take a lot of pride in my business.
Yeah, you should.
So that to really go back, just to touch real quick on what we said about the social media, and it's like, no, I take pride in doing that. Like getting rewarded for it. I didn't get any money off that, but that was so rewarding to me. And so, but point being, you can look at the reviews and see and they're honest reviews. They're like, tough hunt, you know, you walk a lot, it's brutal, but wow, what an event.
Yeah,
type
but
of things.
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
that sums it up.
So I was like, I love the honest review.
Absolutely.
I love that. Don't fake it. Yeah, don't fake it.
That's so cool. Yeah, super unique experience. It's a challenge, and I would highly recommend getting a hold of Ryan and just getting out there and getting after it. You're gonna shoot some birds. More than likely, you're gonna shoot some birds. But the bigger thing is, it's an adventure. You're gonna have a great time with a good guy. See some great dogs, and be in an absolutely incredibly beautiful place.
It's great. It's amazing.
Phenomenal. So there is more upland content for you guys right there. Like I said, I've been getting more and more comments about upland content, and I said, you know what? I know a guy. Let's get him on the podcast and let's talk birds.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm glad and it's great because you're local. I love doing the in-person stuff.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And guys, I'm gonna take a minute to pay some bills here. Huge shout out to our partners for making what we do possible. And I would encourage you to check out our partners' websites and the products that they have. Be looking at Weatherby, be looking at Federal Premium. Thank you to Kryptek. Thank you to High Mountain Seasonings and, of course, Leupold Optics. We're very, very proud to work with those companies, and they make what we do possible so we can bring you awesome content like this podcast today. So when you're looking for equipment, go check out those companies. And thank you for this opportunity to have a great conversation today. Guys, till next time, we'll see you in the field.